Well, it appears to be a fairly average end to the month of July with sunshine, some showers, and some warmth to speak about as well. Thanks for clicking on to Monday, the 28th of July edition of Vogan's European Outlook. This is the CDAS 10-day temperature anomaly profile between Friday the 18th of July, the 8th of July through the 18th of July. I'll get there. Good start to the video. So this is the 8th through the 18th of July in terms of the temperature anomaly. And again, standout is over Scandinavia. UK and Ireland was very warm through this period, into France, Low Countries, and away from the southwest across the majority of Spain and Portugal. The majority of Portugal, in fact, actually slightly below average conditions here. Eastern areas of Europe warmer than average as well. If we play through here, we have seen a fairly interesting shift in the pattern as we progress through from first half to second half of July. Lower pressure moving in from a west-southwesterly direction, bringing much more unsettled conditions across, particularly the southern half of the UK. Not exclusively, that being said, we've seen a significant amount of rain and spells up here across the north as well of the UK. But generally, we've had lower pressure moving in from the west, and that has been providing a big drop in temperatures across particularly Iberia, France, Low Countries into Germany, and shoved the heat up into Scandinavia, Iceland for a period of time as well, and then into also the Balkans, Greece and Turkey. We've had this kind of split in the heat, one piece going north, one piece going southeast, and a slice of cooler conditions replacing that heat as it exits to the east and to the north. So you can see here, this is the most recent 10-day period, and we've got a fairly cool France, Iberia, and then even down across the south of the UK, give or take, we've had a few days up into the high 20s. We've trimmed the heat across the south. We've still held on to some warmer than average the further north over the UK and Ireland you go, which is quite interesting actually. The question mark is going to be what takes place going down the road. Now, August, there is a bit of a more persistent trend now in a lot of the models suggesting that high and dry will be the theme for the month of August as a whole. There will obviously be variability within that overall, but you can see here, if we look at the ECMWF, this is the upcoming 30-day period ending Tuesday, the 26th of August. This is surface pressure anomaly, by the way, and this is over a 30-day period. You can see a very strong signal of high pressure centred to the west of the UK and Ireland, but then nosing in over the UK and Ireland, which is interesting, extending into the near continent as well. We've got lower pressure up towards Iceland, Greenland, Norway, Sweden and Finland, with the exceptions of Norway, and also down into the southeast, where we've got a lot of heat at the moment, and down across the southwest of Iberia as well. This is the ECMWF extended. This is the GFS extended, almost a carbon copy of the ECM for the period ending Tuesday, the 26th of August. High pressure at the surface. Remember, this is surface pressure extending into the UK and Ireland from off the Atlantic. Looking at the ECM seasonal, it too is going for a very similar look overall, and the CFS model here, again, fairly similar, although it's seeing higher pressure further east into the continent. So that's the overall next 30-day period in terms of sea surface pressure anomalies here, and we will look at this in a little bit more detail coming up. I want to show you the overview of the ECMWF. We do have a somewhat changeable picture with high pressure down towards the Azores here. We've got systems running over the top, and you can see here that we've had this over the last couple of weeks, this high to the southwest with a little bit of an extension up towards the UK and Ireland here, or certainly over recent times at least anyway, not necessarily the last 2 weeks. But you can see here we've got systems running over the top of this high over the UK and Ireland into areas of Europe here. That is going to generate some very significant rainfall further east over the continent, where you've still got heat that is easing somewhat over Greece and Turkey. But when you've got fresher Atlantic air moving into a hotter, more humid environment of Eastern Europe, you've got the chance of explosive thunderstorms, flash floods, damaging winds, large hail, etc., etc. If we play through this loop, you can see here the general emphasis being, as we end the month of July into the month of August here, we've got the back and forth. We've got a mix of sun showers, longer spells of sunshine, longer spells of rain as well, and generally temperatures are going to be close to average. This is as we move into the weekend, coming up off the ECMWF. We've got a frontal system moving in to Ireland and the northern half of the UK. Then that clears through. Then we're left with the sunshine and showers. Westerly flow here. Temperatures relatively close to average. Another feature runs in. Then we've got a little bit more northwesterly component of the winds here. So something a little bit fresher coming in over the top. Again, a showery regime. And then as we move towards the end of week 1, beginning of week 2 of August, there is an element of higher pressure trying to exert more influence over the UK and Ireland here, but it's very much subject to question here. Depends on the prevalence of low pressure in the northwest versus how strong the Azores high is underneath it. If we look at the GFS model here, you can see discrepancies between the models here with this upcoming Saturday, the 2nd of August. Very different to what the GFS is indicating here. You notice that it's got much more in the way of higher pressure exerting influence. If we go back to the ECMWF model here, you've got for the same time frame a system moving in off the Atlantic. It's actually looks as if it's more going to be Saturday night and into Sunday. If we go back to the GFS model, it's seeing some frontal system moving in, but in a slightly different fashion. And then you can see here that higher pressure is trying to build in. We've got another system moves in, then the high builds in more bodily and may try to exert more influence on the UK and Ireland pattern as we head towards next weekend here. So a lot of variability in the overall pattern. I think this high is going to be remain anchored to the southwest systems coming over the top. Then as those systems clear east, we've got this extension of that high moving into the UK and Ireland here, and that general rinse and repeat cycle, I think, as we step out of the month of July and into the month of August here. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch. In terms of air mass, it doesn't look as if we've got anything significant to play with in terms of heat. In fact, we could actually be talking about some fresher conditions trying to build in across parts of the UK as we step out of the month of July into the month of August here. You can see here a patch of cool, which is quite interesting. Got a lot of warmth rotating around that area of high pressure near the Azores, actually, which is quite interesting. Need to keep an eye on that. But if we look at the 850 anomaly here in terms of temperatures, we do have colder than average conditions, as can be seen here. Back to the actual temperatures, you can see here that we've got a little slice of something milder coming in ahead of the next frontal system. Saturday into Sunday. Still got the typical heat for early August over Iberia. And as we continue to play it through here, that area of high pressure moves in over the top of the UK. But generally speaking, we're not tapping any of the heat across, say, Iberia. So this certainly would be good news for folks that aren't a big lover of heat. But you notice the GFS is starting to flirt with something warmer as we move towards the 10th of August, which is obviously a long, long way out, folks. So there's no point in really getting too bogged down with that. Let's have a look at the GFS ensemble. Upcoming 5 days, we've got the trough over Central Europe, ridge to the west of the UK and Ireland, and a bit of a battle in between day 6 through 10. We've got the high trying to build in over the UK and Ireland, and then the 11 to 15, you can see here that the high is generally centred over the UK and Ireland. In terms of temperature anomalies, you can see here, upcoming 5 days, actually firmly cooler than average. We've got some unusually chilly conditions moving into the Alps and northern Italy. So once we've seen that the real heat shift eastwards, it's been replaced by much, much cooler temperatures. That is a rather chilly look to end the month of July, begin the month of August across the majority of Europe. In fact, into the 6th through 10, again, go back to the upcoming 5 days, you can see here close to average, slightly below average across the UK, a little bit above average across Ireland. Into week 2, we've got a slightly cool north, slightly warm south, with still cool across central areas of Europe, which is rather interesting. Then the 11 to 15 day, where we're trying to build some warmth back into play once again. I think as we move towards the end of week 1, beginning of week 2 of August, keeping an eye on that high, trying to exert a little bit more influence up into the UK as well as Ireland. Finally, looking at the precipitation anomalies, upcoming 7 days, and you can see here it's generally drier than average with a wetter east. This is where you've got the clash zone between Atlantic air moving into continental heat. You can see here as we play through this loop, the general emphasis being right the way through week 1 of August, drier than average signal off the GFS ensemble here, and then even all the way out to the 13th, it's showing a dry signal for the UK as well as Ireland. CFSV2, look at the east of Europe here, significant wet anomaly showing up. So we've got quite the contrast between dry west, very wet east, week 1, which takes us to the 4th of August. In the week 2, again, wet east, dry west. And then week 3, we've got a generally drier than average signal overall. In terms of the 500s, you can see here, week 1, you've got that high centred just to the west of the UK and Ireland. Systems run over the top, dropping into the trough that's over central areas of Europe. Into week 2, again, you've got this high trying to build into the western side of Europe here, and then you can see the difference between week 2 and week 3 here, that high trying to exert more influence. So we'll wait and see what happens generally, but I hope you've had a chance to look at the content over the past weekend. Live stream back on Saturday, the Tropical Outlook yesterday. If you haven't, I'll leave a link in the description below to check out the content from the past weekend at your leisure. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. See you again tomorrow with more.